Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Tula Culture Center, and thank you for joining us for tonight's session of Rhythms of Matter. This series of open lectures on architecture is actually the brainchild and collaboration of the Polytechnic University of Tirana's Faculty of Architecture and Urbanism, the Territorial Development Agency, as well as the National Territorial Planning Agency. And it seeks to kind of capture some of the energy and dynamism that kind of defines architecture in Albania at this stage in time. We're also incredibly grateful to our hosts here at Tula, namely Kleda and Alban, for being so gracious as to lend us this space to become the home of this series of lectures, and for always inviting us and keeping us well fed and, let's say, well furnished with drinks. Now, one of the really nice things about this series has been the opportunity to hear some of the most distinguished figures currently operating within prestigious international architecture firms. Not only to hear about their projects, but also hear about some of the ideas and sensibilities that shape their work, their thinking with regards to landscape, material, context, and place, and how all of that kind of comes together to, let's say, finalize or conclude in built pieces of architecture that we can all enjoy. And tonight, we're incredibly grateful for having the opportunity to hear a lecture and presentation by Beat Huesler, who is the managing director of Oppenheim Architecture in Europe, I guess. And as for myself, I forgot to, as I always do, to introduce myself. My name is Martin Alita. I'm an architect and planner, and I'll be your co-moderator alongside Jurtin Jairo of Common Sense Studio. And we'll get a chance to hear from Beat very shortly with regard to the work of Oppenheim Architecture. Oppenheim Architecture was actually founded in 1999 in Miami. And they opened up additional offices in Europe that are currently being led and guided by Beat. First in Basel, and presently, I guess very recently, we also opened up a Tirana office as well. And the office itself is kind of defined by a very sensitive and masterful exploration that is kind of rooted in the place, in its treatment of materials, landscape, light, and especially kind of how that comes together in the architecture that is formed in the designs. Now, what's really unique about Oppenheim is that a lot of studios and a lot of practices kind of talk about being rooted in place and having, let's say, contextual architecture, but with the designs of Oppenheim, you really feel it. You can kind of feel it in the way that the buildings kind of sit within the landscape, in the way that they operate with light and material, and also with the way that they can feel both powerful yet peaceful at the same time. So for context such as Albania, as I'm sure we're well aware, there are a lot of questions about change, about the way that this country is being transformed very quickly, issues of place, issues of identity, and issues of where we want to be in the future. So a very, let's say, powerful but sensitive treatment of architecture is something that we're all kind of interested in. So in a very small amount of time, we'll get a chance to hear from Beat, but also we'd also like to mention, let's say, some of the work that has been done by Oppenheim Architecture, which Beat, I guess, will share some of it in his presentation, including the College of Europe and the Besa Museum. So please give me, let's give a very, very warm round of applause to Beat. And Beat, thank you for being with us here tonight, and the floor is yours, if you will.
Thank you very much for everybody being here. It's a great honor, not just to be in Albania, a guest of Albania, but actually being in this incredible environment, which is one of the very fruitful outcomes of this architectural laboratory that started a decade ago, and now since a couple of years got really more intensified. So this is, I'm very happy to be invited. Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. You said that very well, and I hope the projects I'm going to show, and I'm not into too much people's way, are going to speak for themselves, because I think that's the strongest, the most important message that the architecture, when it's finished, has its own meaning and its own presence and voice. Now I need to, I think you're in the, yes, your body is too strong to. So, rightly said, so our office was founded in Miami. We have an office also in Aspen, and about 20 years ago we opened one in Switzerland, and since 3 years ago also in Tirana. But I'm not alone here. I just wanted to make a point of our incredible talented people here. We have over 25 nations in our office, in all offices, and there is a white spot in the middle, as you recognize. So whoever wants to fill the white spot, talks to me after this meeting. We have projects all around the world, and but kind of in that kind of equator area, and that we like to be in. And we just lately, last year, have a new project which is on a boat, which is very interesting for us because it's not rooted on the land, it's rooted on the water. And we do have a project in the metaverse that's very interesting for student architecture, because we don't need to care about details and waterproofing and all that. It's creating a space totally in the metaverse, in the virtual world. We also worked on the virtual gallery, which is very, very interesting to be in a place that is kind of not rooted, especially with our ideas and claims. But what is most important for us is the thought that we are the most connected species ever in this world, but we're also the most disconnected. And how can architecture help us to connect back to the environment, to the surroundings, and appreciate the land and the context again? And we really work hard in our projects with these principles that we say we want to frame the nature and celebrate the surroundings. Celebration of the existence is very important for us. We are building a set and design with the land, not just on top of the land. And we're trying to create silent but very monumental moments in our architecture. And we do all of this in celebrating the spirit of place. Now, a couple projects where we kind of try to show this, and they're very different programs. So what I just said is not just a villa, it's not just for hotel projects, it actually works also for very technical projects. This is a water treatment plant outside of Basel, Switzerland. And it's kind of a boring exercise of a lot of technology, and we were asked by the community to create a skin. And we were like very overwhelmed with the question of creating a cool facade for a building like that. But so we started to understand what is inside, and can we somehow create a shape of the facade that follows the inner structure. So we were looking for materials, we were looking for a way to connect to the land, and excuse this bad video of myself being on the land, trying to work with the material of the land, which is clay, and trying to form a building that follows the inner technology of the water treatment plant. And that led to a project that is kind of almost mystically, you find that in the forest, and that kind of has an existence that is not clearly, is it architecture, is it an object, is it a sculpture? And because there is not a clear distinction between a roof and a facade and other level of details, we reduced it completely to this presence of a rock almost in the middle of that forest that is now 10 years later completely grown in. And inside is a highly technical apparatus, and there's some water, and the question of how does the water being read through the architecture, and we have these moments that we collect the water with the facade, that you actually start to smell the material. And we just like to test these materials in a way that you feel it, you want to touch it, you want to smell it, you want to be kind of close to this material. So this was shotcrete. I don't know if you're familiar with shotcrete. It's used for tunneling. In Switzerland, we have a lot of technology about that. So a lot of engineers using shotcrete, but was never used for a facade. So we created this incredible kind of shotcrete colored with the earth of the place facade that is now adapting to its context and it becomes green where there's more water and so forth. And it's, I've been told it's the largest continuous shotcrete facade that is used to that. So when we are working on this project, we got a call for a project in Jordania at the same time, and the request was to create in a very sensitive area a iconic building. The client asked us to do, which is not really our forte, to do an iconic building. So we went to the site, incredible context of these mountains, and on the site there were these piles of sand, and some of them kind of natural, some of them man-made. And we have thought about, coming from the shotcrete drinking water project, is how about if we just lay a layer of a carpet of structure over this sand dunes, which are basically programs. So we modeled different shapes and forms with them in order to create a building which is iconic but also silent at the same time, and very contextual. So we used the same Swiss shotcrete specialists and brought them to Jordan, and they trained the Bedouins. I mean, it's easy to recognize which one are the Swiss and which ones are the Bedouins. The Swiss came with their fully work dress as per code, and the Bedouins were learning. So there were 4 buildings. The first one, the Swiss shotcrete specialists were doing it, and the Bedouins were watching them. The second one, the Bedouins were doing it, and the Swiss one were watching them. And the third one, the Bedouins were doing by themselves and just send a photo once in a while. And the fourth one, they did by themselves. So it was like an educational element to it. But you're basically creating this structure, this kind of sculpture around these dunes, and then fill them with shotcrete. And this material is so beautiful to touch and to work with and to model, that we kind of hire this local artist. He's a Bedouin artist that works with minerals, and we had him go to the mountains in the context, and he collected all these minerals and rubbed it into the concrete on the inside. This is actually gold he collected from the mountains, and he started to test it in different ways with the shotcrete itself. And at the end, it turned into a facade material that is almost like an old palazzo stucco over stucco over stucco facade, but an incredible texture and depth to it, totally rooted in the context of the site. And we're able to create an architecture again, which kind of is not really a building. It is more of a space, and is very much of the place. So now here too, it does rain. You start to see the water, how it flows to it, but it really connects to the rest of the context. It becomes, these are the small mock-ups, which are the kiosk of the golf, and then it turned into the larger building, which is the clubhouse. Same client asked us in Wadi Rum, the desert of Jordanian, to do a study of some caves, and which we were so happy to do. And then the project stopped, and miraculously that another client called us in Saudi Arabia who saw these studies and said, we want to have a hotel which has never been done before. This is at the mountains behind Red Sea, and he said, we want to have a project that connects you so much to the land that you've never experienced before. So we were told to go to these mountains and select a mountain. I mean, that's never happened as an architect, and probably never do it happen again. So we selected this mountain and turned this into this hospitality project, which just finished a year ago, which has carefully located different programs around the mountains. We studied the site very carefully. Where's the soft stone? Where's the hard stone? And with this large group of engineers and consultants, there was some tunneling needed. We got the experience from Switzerland. There's a lot of infrastructure, but it's all fully autark, you call it. It's all off the place with solar panels, with water underground water collectors, so there's no extra energy needed for the project. We also wanted to keep it very low key. There's a lot of candlelight and stuff, and in the rooms itself it's cooler anyways because we are inside the building. It was incredible to see that this is being built. So the process of doing that was very, very interesting, from the rendering through our 3D to the build, finding the niches and the exact spots to place their program. The program really followed the rock, not really a program that was put on top. We were not giving really a program. We were like defining it with the site, finding the right spot for the lobby, recreating this incredible space as an entry. So there was also a very unique process for that. But with a result of very spectacular units. But the most important, everybody that's there, and the place is sold out for the next six months. Everybody who's there said they never experienced the desert so intensely as they do with this project. It's a completely different hospitality and experience for that. So we're very grateful to have a client like that let us do this. And the same client said, okay, if you can do this on a rock, can you also do this on water? And they came to us as a protected coral reef outside of the Red Sea, and they wanted to have a hospitality experience over these corals. And obviously, that is not what building with the land in that sense, but very beautiful context, and a different context as trying to find not just the water and the corals, but also the flora and the fauna, and protect it with the buildings. So what you see was our first concept, how we tried to create this ellipsis, reflecting ellipsis, to really becoming part of its contacts and shining, and that was the approved concept. And that actually then got built. So these are these these spheres, these ellipses, which were built in a shipyard, and here this was the mock-up of one of the first one, and they actually then got shipped, finished to the site.
It would just be stunning. Very happy and proud to start the year by receiving the first batch of Shibara Island overwater villas.
So there's the first one built there. Some more images how this also again fully sustainable resort, everything fully on solar, fully with regenerating water, protecting this beautiful piece of land. So we're being asked a lot, is this AI or real? And it is real, and this place is also sold out for the next 6 to 9 months. A lot of people go to the Desert Rock for a couple of days, and then they go to Shibara for the other days. But it's incredible experience there too, and there is just one image here that we love the most is when it starts to blend with its context. So incredible. Just imagine you grow as you wake up in the morning in this context. You see the fish reflecting on your buildings. Now, what is this all to do with Albania? And we are not approached so far by an Albanian client to go into a rock or select a mountain, but we have more projects which are urban in some places and have to do with people. And connecting building with the people, what is this image is so strong, and this is our kind of driver for the College of Europe. And everybody in this room probably knows where this is from, and somewhere in these pictures you find Blendi, the culture minister too. But how the people start to define the facade is incredible. How the architecture also allows this to happen, and that was a big driver in the project. So the EU, they have their own educational program called College of Europe. There's one in Poland, there's one in Bruges, and then there's going to be the third one in Albania. So they selected Albania for representation of education for the College for Europe, which is, I think, is already a very proud statement for the state. They came to us with a program that says we have students and we have delegates. And then we said, yeah, but where's the public? It's like, don't gather, just like close it, there's a door, the key, there's a school. It's a closed community. And said, that's not Albanian. That doesn't work. So we created this public program that is, that kind of is an important element of the school now, and we created a fourth program which we called Agora. It's like where all the program overlap. So we have the students, we have the delegates, and we have the public, and the overlap in the Agora. And the Agora is kind of the auditorium where everything comes together, and that is for us also a very public space. So we then took the program and separated the program into 3 different buildings, and the Agora in the center. Then we lifted the building in order to have a very public pergola on the ground floor, something very Albanian, the interaction in the ground floor of people going in and out. And with lifting that, we also created a kind of like a student art squad at the upper level. So a park above the public foyer. The public foyer also connects the existing building because this project is at the very entrance at the university area, so it has also represents kind of as a gate, and that's why the public building is there at that corner. The facade itself then is actually kind of a stage for people on both ways. And the pergola, the loggia itself, is then reconnected with this series of columns, and the columns are in the this is the Joy of Order, the hymn of the EU. So the columns kind of play that song. If you run fast enough and the right speed with your finger, you hear the hymn of Europe in the facade. So it starts to represent something more of the place. So this is kind of the overview of the building. It's not just one building; it's very contextual. There are 3 buildings with this core program of the auditorium. Now, how buildings speak to the people is something that is very deeply rooted in Albania, and in Tirana especially, with the murals, with the colors, and it's not just a facade, it's actually a communication tool. So learning from that was a very strong element. We wanted to bring these international students going to school there very close to the Albanian culture. So we created kind of this big mural facades to the art squad above, and we're able to have a scale of buildings which is very beautifully set in the volume of the city, but also in the color scheme of the city. Now the building have this continuous loggia every program, which is very unusual to have a classroom with a loggia, but we wanted to have the students going outside, seeing the people and the people seeing the students, so getting an alive facade. For us, a facade is not really about decoration. For us, the decoration, if you may say so, is the human that then lives it. So we're not spending a lot of money on decorative elements. It is other spatial elements which are more important for us. Loggias make also a lot of sense in Tirana with the summer heat. It's the cheapest way of saving energy by giving depth and creating this outdoor experiences. Like every building has a big rooftop to be outside and also signal to the city that there is public on the roof. So this is kind of the upper art squad, the student area around the auditorium. The big public stair bringing you up to the auditorium. There's a park that is actually for all of the new university buildings around, and we envision this as a very lively building and not that gated community that originally was asked for. And the auditorium also, we said, this is not just a classroom; it's supposed to be for Albania and for the people. It's under construction now, so if you pass by the universities and you see the first red pillars coming out. Talking about red pillars, I'm talking about the Bisedë Museum now, another proud project of us, and it's almost a bit intimidating talking in front of so many Albanians about Bisedë, and you know what it means. But I keep saying, when we won the competition, we have some Albanians in the Basel office. They started to cry, and then I actually understood what that means to work on this project. And the the program of the museum is the renovation of the Toptani house. It's a cultural heritage. And then there's a new program of the museum. And the new program, we decided to go underground, to have architecture of non-existence for the presence. We didn't want to be in front of the Toptani house, and we want to give up a free space, outdoor, an urban lounge, an outdoor odor to the visitor of the Bisedë Museum. So we went underground with the new part and kind of connected it to the public through these huge towers, these light wells. They bring light down, but they're also iconic to the outside. So from the pyramid, you will see them popping up from the park, from the garden, and they become symbols of Bisedë, of the Bisedë Museum. That goes that far that these symbols will travel through Albania, gathering the stories of Bisedë. And they define the four pillars of Bisedë, which is all about emotions. It's all about, this museum doesn't have any artifacts. So we had to create a space, a museum space, that is just about creating a feeling. And we all know Bisedë has some very difficult moments in history and some rather nice moments, how they protected the Jews in the World War, but it's always connected with pain, and it's always connected, though, of the love of hospitality of the Albanian people. So how can we show this in a museum was, I think, one of the most difficult projects we had. We just didn't want to bring. We couldn't even decide what a facade of a museum like that should be. So we're going to carefully renovate the Toptani house. This is the Oda of the Toptani house. This is the new Oda below ground, which is have a very immersive experience about the people of Albania. We're also going in the next couple of years through all the villages of Albania and connecting these stories, and these stories will then be told in this museum. This is kind of the outdoor Oda space, just very minimalistic in the sense, but also humble. I don't think there are some moments where you as an architect have to stand back and let something else speak and just concentrate on the program in that sense. But we want to have people kind of connecting to the people in a very intimate way. That's how also these pillars are very rough concrete, and you want to touch it, you want to feel that.
In the heart of Albania, there is a story that transcends time. A story passed down through generations, carried by the land, the people, and the very air we breathe. It is the story of Bisedë, a promise of trust, compassion, and honor. More than a word, Bisedë is a way of life, an ancient code that binds Albanians to one another and to the land that nurtures them. The Bisedë Museum is more than just a building. It is a living expression of Albania's soul. Every room, every artifact opens a window into the nation's rich history, its deep traditions, and the timeless spirit of its people. As visitors step inside, they are welcomed to experience the warmth of Albanian hospitality and the enduring strength of a cultural legacy that has flourished for centuries. The true magic of this exhibition lies in its creation. Every object, every story, has been gathered from the hearts and homes of Albanians, across every village, town, and city. This is not just a collection of artifacts. It is a collection of lives, of moments, of the promise that has connected Albanians through generations. Each piece tells a story, not only of the past, but of the future that Albanians are building together. With every step, and every story, and every artifact, the Bisedë Museum becomes more than just a space. It becomes a living, breathing symbol of Albania itself, a legacy shared by all, carried forward by many. This is Bisedë. This is Albania.
So hopefully we can start Bisedë Museum this year. And through these projects, we always meet incredible, talented local architects. I'm very happy that Jurtin sits here. We did this project together. This is a new project we are working on, Selite, what do you call it, Selite area. It's a small little project but we kind of like the way we played with the volumes and creating kind of a more sculptural approach to the program. There is the red building is an office tower in front of the residential work, and the client wanted to have that tower, that program inside all together. And we tried to create kind of the residential canvas for the the canvas for the office building. But little moments like that are really of interest of us, of the outdoor spaces. What connects you with its place. And this is the last project I'm showing, and maybe some of you have seen it. This is in Vlora, and an incredible site as it is bringing the city of Vlora to the beach. And it's not a hotel project. This is not hospitality. This is not luxury. This is for the city and for the people of Vlora. So we learned a lot from the city, so the old village center of Vlora, which has these incredible colors. Every color tone you see here is from Vlora itself. And we try to understand the windows, the very specific windows in old Vlora that we bring up in a contemporary way. And we try to create this kind of maze of Vlora in this new development. We don't think that architecture should be anonymous, that you kind of create your own home and your own space. And I think we created kind of a very nice addition to the city with this main boulevard that is car-free, so people can go barefoot to the beach. I was asked by this journalist of the London Times, oh, this must be really expensive hotels. Is this a luxury program? And I told him, no, but if it's luxury to send your kids barefoot to get bread in the morning without getting run over by a car and you smell the sea, yes, then this is a luxury project. So we really believe that's the other side of the Lungomare. There's the touristic Lungomare, then this is the more human Lungomare for us, in creating these moments of scale, of color, of Mediterranean feeling. I mean, this is a pure Mediterranean life, and you should celebrate that every day. Just some more images. So this turned kind of into a master plan that is even growing to the west, and hopefully we can also start with that project this year. The last project though is a small house in the south, and that we like a lot. And we kind of really become close and connected to. And we created this villa, which is basically more like a shifted rock that kind of shifted back from the land, and created this this presence which is kind of disappearing but very strong when you're there in the place. It's kind of carved into it. That's how you enter, opening up the spaces, very minimalistic but very connected to its place. Very, very strong when you're inside. But also silent, and with little moments in the facade of imprints, Albanian imprints that through the strong light will give you the sense of place. This is the space between the quarry and the villa, a cool down space in the summer. But that's the moment that you appreciate most. It's almost like when architecture disappears and we are framing that view and really enhancing the place and connecting you with the surroundings again. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for that. Is the microphone on, or? Yeah, I think it's on, hopefully. Yeah. I think that was a really deep dive into a couple of projects, especially with the multimedia approach. You really challenged us to, let's say, address a technical issue that we haven't been able to before, to show video with sound. So I think the next step would be to, I guess, get flight tickets and, let's say, visit the projects directly in Jordan. It's a really, I guess, a really tactile and tangible way of seeing and experiencing those projects. So I'm personally very grateful for that. Yurtin and I have kind of prepared some questions to, let's say, continue the discussion. Now, of course, that was a really good representation of the work of Oppenheim, its philosophy, and its some of its projects, let's say a really representational cross-section of its projects. But we haven't heard anything from you personally. So I would kind of like to start with your own personal journey. How did you, let's say, how did you find yourself coming into architecture, and what sort of keeps you as an individual inspired, either within architecture itself or outside?
It might not surprise you that much when I tell you the story now, but I did not come through the academia. So my father had a tile laying company. It was just him and one guy. So on his knees laying tiles. And since I was a little kid, I helped him, or I had to help him, carrying up the cement and filling up the joints and working as and helping him surviving. So my approach to architecture was very tactile. I loved the smell of construction sites. I know I still do. And I think as every student in here, there's nothing better to smell your project when it gets built. And so that's how I started, and then I did. Actually, in Switzerland, we have these apprenticeships. I did an architectural drafting apprenticeship, so I learned by detailing first, and then I went to study in the US, and that's actually where I met Chad Oppenheim. I was his TA in technology, in technical and technology and materials, and that's how we kind of met through there. And then I did my graduate, my master's over there. But I came from a very tactile environment, and a very humble environment, and not in a very philosophical environment.
So that's quite different from the experience, I guess, that a lot of us have had conventionally with architecture education, where, you know, we walk around other people's architecture, we might visit it, but our own architecture is kind of, you know, begins on a sketch and kind of ends up in CAD drawings that we submit to our professors, or, you know, kind of like the emotion is tied to really hostile or aggressive studio reviews, and it kind of ends like that. I guess it's a very different approach. And I was actually curious, but I guess Yurtin can kind of really go into a deep dive on how that sort of perspective or that unique kind of journey has informed your own architecture process.
Yeah, hi, Bert. It has been several years now that we know one another, have worked side by side and have had chats for hours, I guess, but it's the first time that we sit face in this setting. So I'm ready for the tough questions. Jokes apart, I want to follow actually with the personal side, because in my personal perception, I encountered Basel, your city, when we were doing case studies, and when I was researching about Zumthor. And then later you learn about Herzog de Meuron. And then in my personal journey, I discovered some mystical author, Fridtjof Schwann, which nobody might know here, but he's in a separate field, and he happens to be from Basel. And later I meet you, and what's going on in Basel, because when you see the city, it's a city that represents rationality more than gives you, it resonates much, especially when you come from a Mediterranean place, about the feelings and emotions. And you say that your architecture is more related to form follows feeling, and we are all educated with the dogma of, we know, modernity, like form follows function, and we see this in your works, and I really wonder how has affected Basel in you and in these other people that I
It's a
face.
good question. Never ask, and I don't know. But maybe because it's so boring there, that's you like start to think about your like what's really attractive to you and touch. Even Zumthor is from Basel, but he moved away. He moved away to the mountains to get more closer to the elements.
Exactly.
But I don't know. I don't know if Basel has something special. It's just lucky. I mean, to have Hertog Dömerow there, and Hertog Dömerow really, for a lot of people, played an important role of how can technology, functionality, and experience and atmosphere be connected in a project. So I think there's a lot of people that got affected by that. But actually, in our office, we make the fun of Miami and Basel. And Miami is the lifestyle, and Basel is the life science, and we kind of fused the two things together, and I think that's more of us. It's a very beneficial collaboration to have the American lifestyle and let's do this, and the Swiss going like, oh no, you can't do this, you know. It's like, oh no, we have to ask the engineer first. Like, oh no, don't ask these. So it's very fruitful. I think that's more inspiring for us, these two cities, Miami and Basel, than actually itself, what's happening in Basel. So I cannot answer you that question.
No. I think we are getting that.
But it's interesting that you say form follows feeling, because that's very important for us. You would imagine Basel is form follows more the program and the function. But we also learned a couple of weeks ago, form follows humans or people. What did she say, Mira? Yeah, it's a form follow that, which I also liked. But we kind of go more to that. Form follows the feeling, the atmosphere, and what is that feeling you want to create in your architecture?
Yeah, exactly. This, I suppose, it will be an eternal debate in the field of architecture, but also in the philosophies. Emotions versus intellectuals. So the reason and the feeling, how to include them. And in your works, I really appreciate this holistical approach, as I think it's a real value to the spirit of our country. But
maybe there's something I found, humbleness. Basel is very humble, and that means
different
humble,
from other cities
different
like Zurich.
from Zurich.
Okay.
So in Zurich, you are successful, you drive an expensive car. The more expensive you are in Basel, the cheaper is your car. There are very rich people in Basel, and they pay entire museums, and you never see a name. Meanwhile, in the US, they would say like, this is the the Turner corner wing, and so it's that humbleness. And in our architecture, I think it's very important, general as an architect, to be humble in moments and to respect where you are, respect your context. So maybe that is somehow an explanation.
I really get it. Well, coming back to architecture and me coming back to the script, there is a real sensitivity in your work, in Oppenheim's all projects, but especially the ones that we see here in Albania, that work with landscape and climate, like nature forces. And there is what you define as the silent monumentality. And how do you cope with achieving the balance between these natural forces and the product of a silent monument?
I thought you were going to ask like silent monumentality, what does that mean in Albanian? I was thinking about an Albanian client. Sometimes there is silent monumentality. They just look at you, and that is like, what are you talking about? I don't know. It is, I think, Albania for us, and we are searching for these moments. It's not always that easy, because searching for the moments needs time, and we know what time means in Albania. And there's no time for anything. And how much time are we giving to find the right moments to create something meaningful because we care about Albania, we care about the land, and I can tell you sometimes it's very painful to see things. So are we giving that time? That's more of a factor where it's a problem for us in many moments. And I keep saying that in Albania, they don't give even the time for learning, I mean, of your mistakes. Because everything is going so fast, you can't even make mistakes and learn from them because you're already like finished with the next. And our architecture needs to, or learns from mistakes, let's say that, and we're not giving the right time for that. So as we are now in Albania for 7 or 8 years, the whole context has been changed, becomes this laboratory, and I think we also becoming our own kind of role inside that laboratory with our approach.
So I think in some ways you've already anticipated and answered my upcoming questions. So that kind of puts me in a position where I have to modify it a little bit. But you know, since we've already opened, let's say, the topic of Albania, what do you feel, let's say, is other than the challenge that you've kind of identified, where the context is of course changing very rapidly? Identity is shifting, and let's say we don't have a very patient stance on fixing mistakes, but what do you feel might be the opportunities of working in such a dynamic and unpredictable environment, especially with regard to, let's say, your own particular style of architecture, which is, you know, very, very tangible, very rooted in place, in time, in material, in, let's say, the momentary sensations of building itself?
I don't think there are many places in this world which allows us to do what we're doing than Albania. I mean, yes, there is Saudi Arabia, right? You think like, now look at Saudi Arabia and Albania, they both have kind of the same status for us. But there is maybe that's what I'm trying to say, where you have a lot of opportunities, you also have a lot of risks, right? So it kind of comes together. Opportunities and challenges are kind of, they're married, you know, and to fine-tune where the challenges is something that we had to learn in the years. We had to learn hard to kind of understand the challenges which allow the opportunities. I don't know if I'm clear with what I'm saying, but I really deeply appreciate being in Albania for many reasons, and that is about the opportunity to have the opportunity to be sensitive about something, right? And to have people listening that maybe don't really understand. Some of the investors don't understand what you're talking about, but they at least listen to it too. And that is a very unique scenario. Maybe also because you're left out of the whole complicated permitting, zoning. I mean, in Switzerland, it takes us a year to get a permit, and with complicated technical questions and, you know, and all of that kind of starts to occupy your design process when you're like so much into that. And here, that's not the part. Here you can really focus on the architecture, and you have other challenges, of course. But I really appreciate that. And the other fact is, by having this incredible amount of architects in Albania, what a joy to have, to create this laboratory, if I call it like that, and the festival, and to have this discourse. There's no place like this in the world. You can create it in a biennale, but here it's done in an almost natural way by creating opportunities, and that creates then something. That the opportunities you're given here also, you start to feel responsible. That is so. I think there's something Albanian too. They make you do that without telling you to do that. You know, it's this kind of, that's what I mean with silent monumentality of our clients. They make us do things that we would never do for anybody else outside Albania without telling us to do it. It's really an interesting fact.
So that opportunity comes bundled with risks, correct? From a creative perspective, let's say, you know, because you're given so much freedom in a way, but it's a double-edged sword, because you have to be very careful and very sensitive and very considerate towards actually doing something good with that power, in a way. So I was actually curious to know, I guess, how those kinds of challenges might have been transplanted into a particular project.
Yeah, exactly. And talking about a particular project, yeah, we have Besa Museum, which, before mentioning that, I was contemplating on the enjoyable part that you were mentioning, being part of what is happening in Albania. And also being part of our profession, as we have our joys, and as you said, we have to learn from our mistakes. There is also this part that accompanies our profession, which is the criticism, or the concerns, or the doubts, or the not understanding. And we, as people who work and live here, face more this criticism sometimes than you that are not here some of the times. And this is a question that I'm paraphrasing from what I have been collecting from the concerns people have with Besa Museum as a project, which are just need to. I would like you to make an answer to that. So because there seems to be a delicate but daring approach to connect architecture to cultural identity, to memory and heritage, which is so obvious in the non-existing of architecture. But when you work with a place with high historical identity, how do you avoid falling into either nostalgia or a rootless abstraction of these values? So while wanting to represent culture, also putting four pillars there kind of challenges the identity of what they are supposed to represent. There is a tension there, and how do you deal with that?
Well, we weren't really thinking about the sculptural elements as being too figurative. So they were not supposed to be kind of representing an eagle or something Albanian in that literal sense. So it was actually more intensely for us, like how can we create the room atmospheric, the light and the sensitivity inside the space. And you can criticize the shape at the end. This is right to be pointy or not. That's legitimate. But I think it's more important to have a more humble, silent monument there that doesn't overtake it. So I think, look, I know who was at the Brighton Art Festival. We had the mock-up outside the main venue, and these little models were about to go around Albania. And we have like a stone Oda there that we're also going around the place. And the idea is to people sit there and talk about their experiences in history of Albania and the Besa. And they will go from town to town. So our hope is that at the end there is a connecting element there. If you see this little logo, if you see this shape, that this is Besa. You know, there's something that connects you throughout the country. So that was important for us, because we don't think an architectural building should have been that strong, or could not be that strong. If you have like a regular building, or look at the shape of the building, and like the Isla Golf Center or something like that this becomes kind of Besa. That was not, for us, not strong.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of students currently in the room, and two things are on their mind. The first thing is, of course, that empty space you showed in the office. And the second thing might be, let's say, some final words of advice from your own kind of unique perspective that, you know, they might carry with them going forward because they're in such a delicate stage of their careers, their formative careers. What do you think is important for young architects to hold on to?
Well, I think the most important is to stay hungry, to discover, to feel your architecture. And I would encourage every student to go and work on a construction site for like 6 months, to kind of start to feel what it means to build. And that kind of being respectful to your context is very important for us. And we don't really put that much value into ornamentation or decorative elements, so I can't really give advice on that. It's more the principles of architecture. What's the quality of a space? And that's something you need to discover each one for yourself. But as I said before, try to build, try to go out and smell your architecture. I think that is one of the most incredible experiences that you can have. So you stay hungry and go place to place. Yes, I think that would be it.
So not just building, let's say, that cerebral intelligence that architects in school are so renowned for, but also building, let's say, the physical and sensory intelligence, which is so important. Like at the end of the day, you're building buildings for people, and as you said, form follows feeling and form follows people. So without an understanding of feeling and people, it's very difficult, I guess, to build good buildings.
Absolutely, yes.
But perhaps I'm sure that there's a lot of questions in the audience, so maybe we can open it up. And if you have any questions for Beat, we can bring you a microphone.
I have a question. I can say, why you are using so much red in the
Well,
Is it influence from the flag or?
Actually, these two buildings are red. None of the others. So and of course it has to do with because they're very it's a strong color, and both projects based on College of Europe, also sending out a signal somehow. So to the international students or to the visitor of the museum. But I think it's actually the only two projects which are red. So you just saw so many of them. Three. Okay. Well, that's like.
There's a museum.
Yeah.
Students' college, and also the office of the artist. The office and some part of the.
Oh, okay, yeah. But that wasn't that strong red. That was more like a washed-out red.
Swiss red.
Like a Swiss red, which is not red. It's not like traffic red. Yeah. But I think it's a fascinating color, by the way. I think it's also the Albanian flag, black on red, is something very, very unique. It's like very strong at the same time. And you only see it in Coke Zero and in the Albanian flag.
Who has the microphone?
I should ask a question. I told you I'm going to ask a difficult question. Okay, I think it's working maybe. I don't know. I think you have two of the most interesting public projects going on for the moment, like under construction. And you have numerous other private projects as well. How do you find working with the public projects and private projects with the clients in a way? Like which one is easier, which one would you like better to work on?
Thank you for that question, but I have to disappoint you that I don't think there's a big difference. Both are challenging. They become challenging when you start to build. Obviously, that everything goes rather quick, and once the execution starts, they don't really want to see you anymore. So you have to make yourself present, and that's the same with both projects. And I would say the financial component is a little bit more tough on the public, obviously. There's stricter regulations for that, where the private can give you the budget as you like, but doesn't really happen either. But they could. So at the moment we didn't find a big difference for that. But also maybe because mentally we're already there when we started the project. So both projects, College of Europe and BESA, are not really expensive projects. It's not important if that detail is precisely done that way, and if you're not spending money on the most powerful performance window. This whole project will. I mean, there was this morning there was a facade conference, and we saw like the Apple building with like the structural glass and all that. That's not our project. So we were able to stay within these budgets fairly easily, if I would say so. But that's more like before we start the project, we ask these questions ourselves, so we don't end up in a problem like 9 months later. Yeah.
Hello, thank you. It was really different from some other presentations. I have a question. In the beginning, it was mentioned that it is like a rule you have that you try to build together within the land, not into the land. And I have a project. How does this, let's say, slogan is represented in the project in Vlora? And also, I am curious, since you have worked in a lot of countries, done a project in the coast that has this high-rise, probably buildings in another country.
So our like building with the land and not on top of the land has to do a lot with respect to the context. Now, obviously, in an urban setting, we do a project at a new boulevard. I mean, you are building a tower at the end of the day, right? So, but what are the elements that connect you to the land and connects you to the context? I think that's the importance there. And there's the more engineered approach to a master plan like this of regular streets and regular buildings and a certain regularity to it. And that's what we learned walking to the streets of Vlora, the old part, that is not Vlora, that is not the Mediterranean lifestyle. That kind of brought us to these elements there. That for us is actually building with the land and learning that and bringing it back. Now, having towers at the beach has to do with that there's a city at the beach. And Vlora, for me, is like Nice in France or Rio in Brazil, that the city comes to the water. That's an unbelievable opportunity for the city. And I think it's important that that line is not just occupied by hotels and guests and the people of Vlora living behind somewhere. They need to come to the beach too and experience that and celebrating their life in Vlora. That was all about this project, and this we wanted to create in a very organic way, and that hopefully will be successful. But it is a different challenge or a different opportunity to do that in an urban environment than having a rock in Saudi Arabia. It's like it's not always that literal.
Here. So I have one silly question and then another one. If you would be given like a choice, like which mountain would you choose here in Albania?
First of all, I don't know the mountains that well. Although we do work on a mountain village now in the south towards Greece, on 2 villages in the mountains. So I've been there now a little bit more often. I've never been to the North Mountains, but probably I would choose something more in the Northern Mountains. But I cannot give you that answer.
Okay. As your buildings are quite, let's say, shaped distinct at some point, like, I wonder what is the process of arriving at a specific form? Like, is it like 1,000 tests that you do, or is like a feeling? Like, how do you arrive at like shaping a project, shaping an idea?
I mean, you're pinpointing exactly the biggest challenge, because the shape should not be, how do you say, accidentally, right? There has to be a meaning behind that shape. And that's a very, sometimes very painful process. especially Chad Oppenheim doesn't give up that easily, you know, and we're like in our kind of research in our own lab, searching and searching and searching for that. So we always say every shape has a reason at the end, even though it does look blending, and that's a very difficult process. Yeah. Like the drinking water, like we were like, what the city just hired us to like, can you make a nice facade on this box? And the engineer said like, this is the box, and we were like, what? But it's like, no, wait, we can do it in wood and try to do something decorative. And then we were like, well, what is it more interesting to kind of start to manipulate the volume, and that becomes kind of the facade, the form, and all of that. And we met this artist who he works with these aluminum boxes, and then he sucks the air out, and then he creates this incredible artificial forms through that socket. Not each one is differently. So we had him like do this exercise with the drinking water, and that kind of inspired us to create the form. So the form is actually driven by its content, and but that was not like a weak exercise. That was pretty long to get there.
Hi, I'm here. I just wanted to say that Oppenheim is pretty iconic in its building, and it's pretty distinguishable from one architecture studio to the other. I had the pleasure to work with some of your projects. My question is, how did you come up with that? How can you make something that can be distinguished from other architecture that you can see nowadays? Is there a specific process that happened, or how did you come up with that?
No, and it's also not the intention to be different. I mean, we would never say that. It's more we're focusing on ourselves and trying to find the solutions for ourselves, and that's what we end up with. But it's never like looking to the neighbor, what are they doing? Oh, we have to be different. So it has to be meaningful, and it has to be contextual. But I mean, everybody says that. I know what the... but we never look to the neighbor in that sense. Well, we always look to the neighbor, but not in this specific case. You know, it is not our meaning to be special, not at all. Actually, I would say it's the opposite. Maybe that makes a difference. I don't know. And we do not mind to say, here architecture should not be present. We have to go on. We had a project where we told the client, let's just go on the ground and let us alone. So we did an underground building, and because it doesn't need to have a presence. So of course we cut our fee dramatically, because now it's just an underground building. There's no facade, no details, and all of that. But we don't mind that if it's better for the place. So.
You started your presentation with connected and disconnected theory. And in my mind, when I think about something that is connected, I should know what is disconnected. So what do you think is disconnected architecture, or for you, what is disconnected architecture? So you will come up later with connected ones.
Well, one of the projects that we felt very strong about was a villa in the Bahamas, kind of. And it's on our webpage. I didn't show it today. But there's so many villas along that beach in the Bahamas that they're just villas, and they're like grand pool areas and a lot of comfort, and you see the people sitting outside there on their mobile phones. And we went, our intent to create a villa which is so strong by its context and by framing the views of the beach and framing the jungle on the other side and hearing the wind and all the senses, that you don't need this. And I was there a couple times at that villa, and you really do connect with the place, and you forget about the rest. I think that's what we're trying to do. And then we think we are successful if that is really happening, that you're disconnecting even if just for a short moment. Now again, the stronger the context at the beach of the Bahamas or in the mountains is it's the easier, right? In incredible vista. What you do when you are in the middle of a town with that is a little bit more difficult. But it is about you entering. You probably have the same thing. If you're entering a space and the space captures you, you probably at the beginning cannot really explain why. It's just something that does with you, that you're connecting, that you look up and you start to have all your senses on. And that's what we're trying to define in our architecture. There's a lot of Zumtor around us in Switzerland. And what I just described is something that I really, every Zumtor building in the past, early ones I visited, that's exactly the feeling you created being in a building by him, early ones. And he started that atmospheric architecture kind of discussion, made it fashionable in that sense that, yes, you can only talk about that and you're not talking about the detailing and the little things, you talk about what you feel.
So one more question in the back.
Yes.
Maybe if you can stand up, maybe.
Yeah. In a city like Tirana, where layers of history, informality, rapid development coexist, what are the signals that you read first in order to understand its spirit, and which one do you deliberately ignore?
Well, I think there are some elements that you just have to accept in your project. That is the public, like what I tried to show in the College of Europe, that the buildings in Tirana should never be a closed surface. They need to be transparent in one way or the other. With transparent, I'm not talking about glass, I'm talking about fluidity of the facade. And being a part of its context of its very colorful city. I mean, there's something very special coming into Tirana when you're not Tiranian. You say that? Tiranian? Tiranos. If you're not Tiranos. And then the building itself needs its own sense of place, right? That its own identity. And that could be different from project to project, and from neighborhood to neighborhood. If we build the Parisit here in this, we're actually working on something around here. It's very different from the Kino Studio Kino. I always mix it up. And we believe in that sense of home placing, that you need to be rooted in your architecture. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for your time and your very generous patience with all of our questions, the two of us as well as the audience, and I'm sure that they have many more questions. You've really spoiled us today with the videos, with the music you showed us before. I think that got me really excited about turning up the music and maybe grabbing a drink and continuing the conversation. So once again, a big round of applause for that. And for my co-moderator, Yurtin. And the food and drinks are finally ready. So.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again.